You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Simus.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1172. But I guess, as I told Travis before we started recording, we got to address the Zunisha in the room.
Yeah, I'm glad you found the password to the account.
It took us a while, but there was this really long flashback, and we pulled a Luffy and fell asleep. Yeah, obviously, so if you're a listener of Rookie Pirate Radio, we went on a pretty unplanned, unannounced hiatus. We haven't done an episode since last April. We've been gone for a while. We've been talking about coming back and stuff, and it just never happened because neither of us did it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no like real lore beyond that, is there?
No. It was just like genuinely, I think we both kind of were like, we just ended up taking an unplanned vacation from the show. But I'm glad we're coming back to it. I will say, do you remember the last chapter we talked about? I have it pulled up right here.
It was April. So that was before, was that before the flashback started?
Yeah, it was before the flashback. April 21st, 2025. We did 2 chapters. And it was, let's see here. Yeah, chapters 1145, which was Wildfire and Forest Sector 2, Branch Route 8, and 1146, Motion and Stillness.
So Emu hadn't even shown up yet.
Right.
Wow.
Gunko is fighting the Straw Hats at this point. We talked about whether or not Dr. Hiruluk is secretly Zebek. You pretended to like that Reddit theory. I have a feeling that theory was wrong. Yeah, no, let's see, I'm looking at the stuff we talked about. Usopp and Nami were taking on, looks like maybe either Summers or killing him. But we saw Gunko's regeneration powers, but we didn't, like you said, we didn't see the Emu thing. And we speculated if the Holy Knights have Gorosei buffs. So we got that. And then Loki's backstory, we talked about whether or not it'll reveal Zebek, and there you go. Jinbei being the MVP firefighter, that's still true. Brook possibly knowing more than he lets on about Holy Knights, which comes into play for this coming chapter.
It does.
King Harold's deal with the Celestials and the mystery of Elbaph's true allegiance, which all that has been answered, basically, by Robin and Chopper in stealth mode. And then, I mean, that was answered pretty soon after, with like Chopper taking care of Gabon and all that. And then a bunch of other stuff. Okay, yeah, so we got into it. Although we did right here, catch up before chapter 1147 drops.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's a lot. We picked a great time to not do a podcast, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we had people in the Discord were like, this would be a good time, guys, now that we're in God Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, and can I say I did not expect any of that. Like, we did predictions around that period of time, right? We talked about, could we see Zebek in like Loki's flashback and everything? I don't think either of us actually thought we would do God Valley within another flashback like this. That was completely unprecedented.
Not even within the diegetic flashback, because the real flashback was like 3 minutes long. So all of that was just extra. So I was kind of surprised about that. I always expected the God Valley stuff would come to play through a main character, like a Straw Hat, Robin at least, something.
Yeah.
And because this is the most significant and anticipated flashback in One Piece history. It's one of them, right? And I genuinely, I feel like 2019 or to me 2018 was when we first started getting some teasers around like what God Valley might be. So we waited 6 years, and you and I we pieced out.
Well, and what it turns out. But I mean, you think about it too, not even just God Valley as we understood it, but things that we've wanted to know things about for ages. You and I have speculated many times about Dragon's backstory and how he must have had some sort of direct connection to the Marines based on conversations that he's had with Kuma and just kind of rationalizing it out. And lo and behold,
that he is like the real son of Garp. He isn't like the son-in-law, which was always something we kind of were like curious about.
Possibly, yeah. And it turns out God Valley is his origin story as well. That's incredibly shocking. It turns out it's Shanks' origin story, which we, kind of knew, but in seeing, like, we get to see his mother, not her face, interestingly, but
we know what happened to her.
Yeah. And it feels like, Oda kind of joked for a bit that like Elbaph wasn't originally on the table. And I'm starting to think that this might be how he's compensating for now going here. where we're here, but we still have to do all of this stuff. So I'm going to layer it in such a way that we do God Valley now so that going forward, we don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, we got so many confirmations of that that's the only thing that makes sense at this point is he's just trying to be efficient.
It is. It is. I want to, before we we're going to break down some God Valley stuff that we didn't get to talk about. And then we're going to talk about the chapter itself, of course. It is more of like a setup chapter anyway. So I feel like, we should be fine. But there are so many God Valley things I want to bring up. One of the main things is that I joined the chorus of people who I was overall kind of let down. Overall, I don't think God Valley reached my expectations. And they were high expectations, to be fair. I just kind of thought that it was a bit of a whimper, a thud, like whatever you want to call it, in terms of like, cool. We learned cool stuff, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel Harold's death. I didn't feel Zebek's death, to specifically God Valley. I mean, I feel like the Harold stuff was better, actually. I'll say that. But I would say everything was Zebek. I think I'm glad how the story is positioning him, but it's getting so repetitive to me. It's so repetitive. It's like Emo's taking them over and everyone thinks he's this, but really it's this. It's like the same thing. And it's like, I'm sorry. I don't want to meet. I'm not trying to be like, that subreddit that acts like One Piece sucks, but yeah.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the issue is more about Emu's role in all of this than anything else. Is
Pretty
that
much
a safe way of saying that?
I did like later on, like after the God Valley stuff, I did like that we at least got some costs and consequences, some limits to Emu's power. Like we didn't talk about that chapter before this, but just the revelation that he can only control a certain amount of people at a time, it seems. And he's like sharing his power. He gets weaker the more he shares his power. There's something interesting to me about that. So, because we learned that like when Harold died, he kind of is like talking to the elders about that. And so, which means that now that Saturn is gone, that explains like, okay, that's how he elevates Garling, but we didn't see that. We don't know that he's marked Garling in that same way. I'm assuming he has because he's an elder now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's with the covenants and knowing now for sure how all of that works, what to call them, for example, confirming more or less completely that that's the arm situation as well. That one way or the other, Shanks had that arm removed. Whether he meant to sacrifice it necessarily to get rid of it is kind of a moot point at this point, but we know now that that's the effect of that. I think I get what you're saying in terms of now that we're at the point where everything kind of has answers. The fact that some of those answers are the same answer can be a little anticlimactic. We've had this before with things.
There's nothing
as well.
surprising. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we've had this with other things like in Wano. There was a lot of things that people expected in regards to Zoro's history, for example, if he was going to get a similar like backstory to what Sanji got or something, or even with Egghead and Frankie and more of those interactions. We're not really getting those in the way that I think a lot of people expected them to be, so deliberate, so focused. And so kind of getting this point where, everybody who's relevant was on God Valley or is descended from somebody in God Valley, or was at God Valley, I should say, or has some sort of tangential relation to God Valley, does kind of have a Tatooine effect, so to speak.
That's a good way to put it.
Where all of a sudden this island is just really important, and I think I get what you're saying there. I think on an emotional level, though, especially in regards to Rocks, I think it does work.
I like Rocks. Rocks is my boy.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent. I think his character carries the entire thing, and if we had not done it this way, I don't know that God Valley would have been better. If we had like done it separately or done it from like Blackbeard talking about it or anything.
I like the construction of it. I like how Shocky is kind of the center of. There's a lot of stuff there where I was like, you know what it is for me more specifically? I wanted something closer to Marineford. You have all these characters clashing, and it just kind of felt like it was a bunch of like basic skirmishes, and there wasn't anything that epic. And maybe the anime will get that, treatment, right? It'll have the time when it goes to season 2, but as the manga, I felt like it wasn't that thrilling.
I will diffuse a little bit of your hopes. There's no way we do this in this year of the anime. This year of the anime is almost certainly blocks and partying in Elbaph, and then we'll do the flashback next season. That aside,
next season, that's going to be 27 years from now.
27 years from now, right? Oh gosh. But to the point of it, I wonder too if that's almost influencing some of this now that we're kind of. There is a sense of we're at the end, and so we've been hitting the gas ever since Egghead, where we kind of expect things to take longer than they are. There's no longer, we've talked about this as a plus, where there's no longer any, big mysteries to pay off, right? Like we still have mysteries, but we're not setting up new pins to knock down in 10 years. We're not going to be doing that anymore. And this might be a side effect of that, where we've enjoyed that process so much that now that all of this is coming up, Emu. All of this is starting to really come together. We're in a different place. Very recently, I saw some, that kind of regular criticism that's somewhat fair, where, now that Luffy has Gear 5th and now kind of operates the way that he does, some of the stakes have been taken out of
I don't mind that. Fights. Because I have so much fun with Gear 5th. I'm like, I miss it. I don't care about that at all, honestly.
To me, I mean, it doesn't bother me either because I think that we just haven't had it nearly as long as people think we've had it. So this idea that like, oh, we immediately have to put like a Kaido level wall between Luffy and that, I think is missing a little bit of the point of what Gear 5th is supposed to represent. But there is a genuine shift in how One Piece is being presented versus its past 2 decades. And that's just some, like, I'm not saying you're wrong or tough it out, but it is something that we kind of have to come to terms with as we go forward through this, podcast or not, is it's never going to be like it was. And
sure. All I'm saying, Travis, is I
didn't notice it.
I wasn't trained for this. Oda trained me to be a certain fan, and it's taking me a minute to get my sea legs.
Exactly. That's it. Is we're in new uncharted territory even for Oda, and it doesn't surprise me that not all of it comes together as a result of that.
I do want to do a couple of quick hits, just a couple quick things we learned. The Davy clan, my God, the descendants of the legendary pirate Davy D. Jones. They were like, that's the God Valley thing. I'm sure there's more to that with Ryuma and all the confirmations we got. I forget if it was a confirmation that it was in West Blue. I think we already knew that for sure.
Yeah, we did know that. Yeah.
Okay, I just double checking.
We knew that via Shanks, so now we have it fully confirmed that that's where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we learned so many things about Shanks. We got some more texture around him being in the Holy Land, a little bit more of like what happened, and also like we don't know fully what he was up to and what he did, but we have a better idea of like how he got to the place at the beginning of the story itself. We found out that Garling is the one who discovered the island and the Davy clan and made the proposal for the tournament thing. So we got a couple extra, blanks filled in from the Kuma flashback that I don't think we were hurting for, but it was just kind of some nice little extra stuff.
Yeah, I like the idea that Kuma, in addition to basically ensuring that Luffy would be at the end of this, he also kind of inadvertently made sure that Blackbeard would be. I like the dichotomy of that.
That's true. Yeah, that too. We find out more of like Blackbeard's origin. We learned that Zebek is Blackbeard's father, which, not necessarily like the biggest revelation, but I mean, we were still talking about Dr. Hero possibly being Zebek, to be fair. But
yeah, I mean, he does it so blatantly too. That's the amazing thing, is it's in the page.
Yeah,
it's in the same page. People just says it
because he looks like Blackbeard, so he was like, all right, I'm just gonna, yeah. It is weird to me that like the silhouette didn't look like Blackbeard, but I don't care about that really. I'm just kind of like, okay.
Remember Loki's silhouette?
Yeah, who was that Joker? That was like some kind of like Pokemon compared to
Right. I do think with the Rock silhouette, though, that does kind of play into the propaganda about him, right? Like, we got that silhouette originally from Sengoku. Like, that visual was associated with that story, and that was a lie. And I think that that's kind of clever on Oda's part, though I don't think it was intentional. I think that's just the silhouette he thought was cool. But it does kind of play off that, like, oh, this is how we were supposed to view him, and it itself was a lie. That's clever. Like, he gets his props for that, even though he definitely didn't mean to.
We learned a bunch of things. We got some more of like the Knights of God who were there. We found out Gunko was there. We got a little bit more of like explanation for like, why would the Marines just like let this happen? And we saw a little bit of like the consequences of that and like the politicking around that, how GARP kind of factors into that. I don't think everybody was satisfied by like all the GARP stuff. I think like once a cop always, but at the same time, I'm like I kind of get what Oda's going for to be fair, and like him freeing Dragon, all that stuff, I thought was pretty well handled. Like it kind of went as I expected it to. We kind of got our Garp moment of he's really in this to protect the Marines themselves. Is he a dumbass? Sure, but he's our dumbass.
It's one of those.
I guess. We're stuck with
well,
him.
yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things where you don't have to agree with him to understand his psychology, and I think this is the best look at that character's psychology that we've ever gotten, and that's valuable. That's going to be really valuable going forward.
Shocky was like the prize, the big prize, because we knew about the devil fruits, of course, and we knew like Kaido's future fruit was one of them, Kuma's fruit was one of them. There were at least like several other devil fruits we still don't know that might be handed out or revealed later, but Shocky was, of course, like who's going to marry Shocky, or however that was supposed to, go. And then we get, I love when Rayleigh like saves Shocky and like all that's, God, that was good. I loved it. I was like, I saw people complaining about that, and I was like, get a heart, grow up.
I don't think people were complaining about the Rayleigh and Shocky stuff. I think they were complaining about Roger not understanding that, like, this is not.
Well, I saw that too, but
yeah,
I know I saw people complaining about the Shocky thing and like how she and Rayleigh got. I did. I was like,
yeah, I don't get that at all. That was one of the strongest points. The idea that it feels the same way that like this does. Again, there's the Tatooine effect a little bit, especially like. So many of these characters had pet devil fruits that we've seen before, and like they were the previous users, and they use them in very similar ways. But at the same time, you have this sort of Helen of Troy. Yeah, Marco's dad.
Jesus Christ. Do we have to do that?
Yeah. No, you're like it's Tatooine. It's Tatooine. Like it definitely is Star Wars type. A little bit over, like you're in your own way at that point. But with
Joel Edgerton should play Marco's dad, is what you're saying, right? For people who don't remember, Joel Edgerton
exactly
Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
Attack of the Clones. Yeah. But with the Helen of Troy kind of like moment where all of these disparate connected parts come together over one person, that does kind of feel like Marineford. I could see why you felt that way going into God Valley proper.
We got a little tiny little itty bitty tastes of it. Some fighting. I didn't mind. Like I like that Roger here was like king of the wingmen. He wasn't. He was like, Rayleigh, I got your back, bro. We're gonna save this woman. You're gonna marry her, and I'm gonna become the king of the pirates. Let's do it. Very Luffy coded of like, I'm gonna make your dream come true, baby. Other stuff I wanted to bring up. Davy D. Jones, we already mentioned, but like. So he was this legendary pirate who apparently challenged for the title of King of the World. So we're getting a little bit more of like the world stuff. What Blackbeard is after is the world. So tons of like politicking and theorizing around that. We find out that Rox's real name is Davy D. Zebek. He was trying to hide his lineage. He confesses it to Harold. Like the bromance between him and Harold, I thought was really interesting. I didn't fully understand it. Like there were things about it where I was like, why are they so close? Like what is it that they like about each other that maybe if you and I had been doing this podcast, I would have talked through my thoughts and we probably would have come to some conclusions. But I'm sure, it was sweet as presented. I mean, that made me want to be his homie too.
Yeah, I think it's just exposure. It's one of those things where we just could not, I mean, especially with how jam-packed that flashback was, we didn't get to see, like, time is so relative to a giant that kind of impacts this flashback a little bit. This is basically a blip in Loki's life. Like, it's about the same amount of time as you would see another flashback from another character.
Yeah.
But it's so much longer because it represents a flicker of time to Loki as a giant. And most of this flashback isn't really about him at all. Like, it's kind of interesting.
I mean, we skipped over the stuff about his eyes. Oh my gosh, like the Loki, like his backstory, his evil mom, all that stuff. I thought was really well, like a really cool backstory. It makes me like Loki a ton. But I think we're going to get more into that because there's more stuff we don't know about Loki. There are still some missing pieces. We're going to talk about that in the actual manga recap. But also, if I recall, I'm pretty sure like we found out that Rox like had infiltrated Mary Joa at some point. Maybe the Room of Flowers. I'm trying to remember.
Yes, yeah, he was the only person to this point in the story, and I think people have like worded it's like it's never going to happen again. No, it's worded in such a way as to say that no one's done it since, basically, so that the story can eventually do it again. That's kind of like what it feels like it's setting up. But yeah, he was the only person to get to the Room of Flowers in 800 years.
And that has to tie into like how he was possessed. He was so powerful, like so powerful that Roger and Garp had to team up against him, which tells me, of course, that something happened with him and Emu because that's the only explanation for how Emu was able to take control. I don't know.
We also found out, don't fully understand.
Yeah. We also found out Rocks had a wife, as I mentioned before. Her name was Eris, which I'm pretty sure is a nod to Mushoku Tensei. I've decided it's that. And then of course Marshall D. Teach, the future Blackbeard, and all of that. They were prisoners in like the super rare. They were super rare targets, or however that came. And it was a calculated plan. Like they were going to eliminate the Davy bloodline, but we know that a bunch of them did escape. So they went out and they had babies, and they just didn't have God Valley anymore. I guess like the God part of God Valley was like insulting to them.
Maybe.
We saw Whitebeard in like close to his prime, I guess. Big Mom kind of like in her sort of prime. Kaido just kind of coming up. He was a bit of a whelp. It was fun seeing him,
Yeah.
as like the teen soldier kind of that we saw like glimpses of. Shiki
Kind of
the
a
Golden
weenie.
Lion. Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah, Shiki. Holy crap.
Shiki, Captain John, Wang Ji. We saw Silver Axe, Stussy, of course, who we know is, I think the Weevil stuff we still haven't resolved with like Marco and like Whitebeard's Island, all that stuff. Gonzui, Gil Bastard. I mean, we just got all these characters. That's why I'm kind of like, where was the free for all? Where was the chaos? There was chaos, I guess, but I don't know. I guess it was a little bit more controlled chaos than I thought it would.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something with it being that like it was intentionally written in such a way that, hey, the anime can kind of take this and run with it.
Maybe, yeah.
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't mind it. I feel like the anime has been on a tear, and like especially now that it's not doing week to week, but
Yeah. I don't know that like intentionally leaving stuff off the page so that the anime does it feels a little, I don't know, it feels rough.
Now we know the dragon, I mean, confirmed he was in the Marines, but he wasn't like, he never made it to like a high rank. Now we know what he meant when he was like, yeah, I was a Marine. I didn't see any justice there. He was like, I think like 17 or something like that. So pretty close to like Luffy's age, I want to say, when he left the Fuchsia village. And I'm trying to remember if there was anything else. Yeah, because we did get, like I said, we got a little bit more Kuma, Ivankov, Ginny. We got the Shanks and Shamrock stuff. We know that, Dragon is the one who saved Shanks. Technically saved Shanks and Shamrock.
Even though he doesn't know it. Though he doesn't know it.
Yeah, he was just being a good dude. So that's cool to see. And yeah, so we have a sense of like how Shanks got away, but then Shamrock still ended up with Garling. How sad. Which I'm still wondering, like, is Shamrock going to come back to God Valley? Because where is this?
Yeah,
how do heading?
How do you feel about the twins theory in terms of how much of this isn't actually Shanks or they've been switching or anything dumb like that?
That's the thing. I'm in that team now. I'm in that camp that thinks that was really Shanks who was in the Room of Flowers. In not Room of Flowers, sorry, when he goes to the Gorosei. Get back in like the Reverie stuff.
Yeah, I think it's completely back on the table that it's him. 100%.
100%.
But we've had theorizing that like
I think they have something
Shanks.
on him. They have a way to control Shanks. And it explains so much of his actions right now.
Yeah, it would be weird if, like, because, his arm got bitten off by the Lord of the Coast, so the Covenant mark isn't there anymore. Is it really that easy to break?
That's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what is actually what are the mechanics of that? Maybe Shanks doesn't know. Maybe he's kind of like, do I got to risk this? I got to be careful.
I mean, we know he got out before the Covenant got stronger, so that's a factor. Maybe it's a location thing, but even then, that kind of begs the question of why did he go back if he went back in that scene? Which again, I think is entirely possible. It's him. It's either that or it's Shamrock, and the pirate he's talking about is Loki, but that seems less likely now.
We really got to like wrap it up on the God Valley stuff, but I do want to get to a couple more things. I know I was like, oh yeah, it'll be like 10 minutes to maybe 15. Zebek just like demolishes the Holy Knights, including Garling. I got to bring that up. Like, dude had so many feats in this flashback. My only thing was like, I wanted more Roger feats. But I get it. I understand. But it was just a little bit like, he was so cool. I want more.
It's clear that this was the age of Zebek before the age of Roger. That's kind of what's interesting about this is there's a lot of overlap there that doesn't really feel the same way as like the age of Roger into the age of the Emperor.
And it doesn't seem like Zebek wanted. Well, that's the thing. Zebek didn't want to be king of the pirates. It doesn't seem he wanted to be king of the world.
Yeah, Pirate King wasn't even a thing.
Right. Roger inherits Joy Boy's will, I guess, and then Luffy by extension, whereas Zebek inherits Davy Jones's. So it tells me Void Century stuff, there's going to be something really big with Davy D. Jones and Joy Boy, and how all that stuff kind of comes into play. The Harley prophecy stuff got invoked in this chapter. So like that's my mind's there. I'm going there.
Right. right? Could the two that don't meet be Joy Boy or Nika and Davy Jones? Could it be something with their split of clans?
This better not be a Naruto Sasuke thing, I swear to God.
None of it is yaoi coded enough for that, but like it does open up a lot of options.
I have to tell this to you. This is not relevant to One Piece, really. I guess maybe tangentially, but the funniest thing to me, I was watching like Hassan Piker talking about how like he grieved Charlie Kirk more than Erica Kirk, and I saw in one of the comments, like, well, yeah, the shonen rival attachment, far supersedes any kind of merit.
Honestly, yeah, for sure. I think it does.
Sorry, that's way off topic. The Domi Reversey stuff, we saw way more of like how that works, how devastating it is, both with Zebek and with Harold. And we've learned at this point like how to defeat it. Gabon just kind of like is like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. Like, okay,
cool.
That's it? Like, what? Oh, you just use Conqueror's Hockey. Like, got it. Like, I guess we knew that because the Joy Boy but there's got to be something else. Because, like, Luffy was using Conqueror's Hockey and Egghead. What's the difference?
Yeah, there has to be an infusion method, right, that we don't know about, like similar to what he learned,
like Ryu or something.
Yeah, like Ryu. Yeah, like there has to be an application. And what I think is good, this is my tinfoil hat going on my head. So there's the moment right before the flashback starts, right, where Sanji talks to Gabon briefly because they're yelling at Zoro, like just constantly leaking his Conqueror's Hockey. And Sanji's like, well, what about me? And like we don't hear what they say. And when Oda does that, it means that we're going to hear it eventually, right? So what I think is going to happen is that Sanji's going to be the one who figures this out first. That's what I feel like it's setting up. Because we'll Oda likes giving Sanji those kinds of things because he's a little bit more tactical, I guess we'll say, when it comes to the heat of battle. And he's the one going to the fire specifically. So that kind of will probably cue him up against killing him, which I think is potentially a good matchup for him to kind of work, get through some of these fight some of these nightmares, fight some of this stuff, or even have to fight his own nightmares. It'd be kind of interesting to do a Germa face-off, like illusion Germa face-off, to basically speed run his hockey training. And he's the one who figures it out, if that makes sense.
Well, it's a nice parallel since he's the Gabon of the crew. But
yeah,
before we get to that, we do kind of also see like how Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, like the fallout of God Valley, how they kind of form their respective paths forward after this. We find out that Kaido, like Big Mom wanted Kaido to join her crew. But of course, Kaido, ever the punk rocker, was like, no, I don't want to hang out with you, Mom. I kind of like find their like big sister little brother dynamic kind of adorable. You can just kind of tell she genuinely like seems to have like a little bit of like shucks with him, but knows he needs that tough love like she does with her kids, and he doesn't like it. But he was a regular Katakuri before Katakuri, I guess, who was around, but we got a little glimpse of him too in this flashback. And we also see like kind of the power scaling, right? Because like Big Mom and Kaido were defeated like really quickly by rocks, but Whitebeard kind of held out. He offered a lot more resistance. He was kind of like thrown out the match basically, and so we kind of see like how close Whitebeard was the first mate. Like he was the kind of like, all right, Zebek's doing his wild Luffy stuff. I'm actually in charge though. He kind of corralled the troops. I don't think the Rocks pirates functioned really without Whitebeard because like these are some like real wild cards. It makes you wonder like what is that for Blackbeard? Because like I feel like Augur isn't not
Lafitte
that strong.
Chief of Staff?
Well, what feats does Lafitte have? I feel like the actual person who's closest to Blackbeard in strength obviously is Kuzan.
Yeah,
but Kuzan is not really like a Whitebeard kind of guy. Like so he doesn't have that. That's a problem. Sorry, Blackbeard, your stocks are going low for me.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we don't know anything about Lafitte. Speaking of people who can sneak into Mary Joa, Lafitte is the other one who's done that. He did make it to the Room of Flowers, but he did just walk right in. We really don't know Lafitte's deal. I think in terms of like power on Blackbeard's crew, I think you're probably either looking at Jesus Burgess or Kuzan, like you said.
Burgess,
I think that's fair.
Burgess got like flipped by Sabo, so it's like that would be sad.
It's kind of it's kind of rough, right? That rematch is going to be interesting.
And then Roger asked Garp to join his crew, of course. But
I love that.
Garp wasn't like, no way, nerd. No, he was just like, I can't, and be cool, but I can't even imagine like a Garp like position on. It's like maybe for them it's like how if like Jinbei kind of joined, the Straw Hats, like just such a boon, like quick boon. It's like if Loki joined, I guess, it's that kind of same thing.
It's I loved that moment though, because like people had a really big problem with Roger's depiction here. They thought it was really immature. A lot of people thought it was just like, oh, he's a simp. Oh, he's not really like King of the Pirates-esque. But this is the moment. This is the moment where Roger goes from kind of a wild card for fun, kind of like young, wilding, adventuring pirate to someone who has seen some stuff. Like this is a formative moment for him. And you can tell that that's happened to him the moment he turns to Garp and says, you should just come with me. There's no way you can go back, right? This is the moment where Roger understands what's going on. Not just experiences it, but understands it. And it matures him. Like this is the man who can now actually get to Lodestar Island because of what he experiences here. That's what Roger's role in this part of the flashback is. It's not really to be his story, which I know you wanted to see like more of his feats and everything. This is how we get there though. We're still not done with Roger's story. We're not even really done with most of these character stories. I mean, the fact that Blackbeard's mother walks out of this blows me away. We are not yet to the end of whatever tragedy made that man. We are only at the beginning of it. So
yeah, I feel like we've kind of put a kibosh on like, because I mentioned the Big Mom and Kaido stuff, but like we've kind of finished the whole like why so much beef between them. Well, Big Mom has been holding it against him all this time that he ate that fruit that she wanted to give to her kid, and it's just kind of funny that like
and didn't join her crew.
Yeah, she's just kind of like you're screwing me over basically, and Kaido's like I want it fair and square, whatever he said. And it's like, yeah, of course, like they bicker like siblings. And then everybody else kind of goes their separate ways. I don't remember. I don't think any of the Rocks pirates died. Like I don't think we got any of that. But
just was it? Who did Wang Zhi kill? Was it Silver Axe that he killed on Hachinosu?
Was it? I don't know if it was it Silver Axe? I thought Silver Axe was God Valley.
Who did he kill? He killed somebody. I could have sworn it was Silver Axe. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm probably wrong. Someone in the comments will correct me, I'm sure.
Yeah. But anyway, lots of stuff. We haven't even gotten to the full extent of it. I'm sure we will in time to come. The only other thing I wanted to mention was that we still don't know what happened to Loki more recently. Like we see him like kind of like ship off, and he goes to sail after he's the one who killed Harold, but like it was, a mercy kind of thing, and he used a Mjolnir, which we knew he had. Mjolnir apparently is like a squirrel, apparently, I guess, ate that fruit, or a hammer ate a fruit.
Yeah,
probably he's the latter.
He's Ratatosker is what he is, which I was like, oh, duh, that actually makes perfect sense.
It does. I think it's really fun. But we don't know what happened more recently, because we know that he got all tied up and he had some kind of confrontation with Shanks. So that part of the flashback isn't over, which I appreciate. I was like, okay, but we need to get back to like the story. Like this was getting kind of long in the teeth. So I was actually appreciative for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that kind of stuff is either things we need to resolve after Elbaph, like in a conversation between Loki and Luffy, or
Don
we still
Marlin.
need. That's it. Don Marlin.
That's who he killed. Yeah,
that's it. Okay, thank you for the correction. But with this being something that Shanks was involved in, knowing that Shanks was there and knew the whole story and even felt really responsible for what happened, that Shanks would then defeat Loki and bring him back, like feel like that's necessary. I find that very interesting.
All right, so One Piece chapter 1172, the Elbaph I admired. I kind of said this before, definitely more of a setup chapter, but I think like a setup chapter that I wanted, that it's setting up pieces that I'm excited about personally. We open with Hajruden's crew. They're coming up from the underworld. They're in this like elevator thing, and Gabon's kind of giving everyone the full debrief of like, all right, here are the people we got to fight. Here's what their powers are. Obviously, Zoro's paying close attention because he's like, which one has a sword? I'll fight them. We go topside. Kashi has been absolutely wrecked. He wants them to help Ja Rule as quick as possible. And so classic Oda, we kind of split up the team. Zoro and Hajruden, I think they're heading to back up Ja Rule. Brogy is going after to save the Straw Hats because Nami's there, and he's also supposed to be putting out fires at the library, which we'll get to that. Oda kind of has this beautiful double page spread. Yes, it's like a tactical map. It's showing where everybody is. It's this would have been helpful earlier in the arc. I don't remember if we already got it. I think we did actually, but we kind of see where everybody is. Like so, Nami, Usopp, Robin, Jinbei, they're still stuck with being tied up and everything. The library is still on fire. The kids are still being marched to the port, to the ship. Chopper, I think, is still hanging back underworld. I forget exactly where he was. Brook is wandering, apparently wandered off. Yes, he's up to something, according to Jinbei. And of course, I think this ties in directly to the Gunko of it all. I think Tekking had a pretty good thought on like what this is. I'm sure we'll get to it, but I like his interpretation of like what the deal is with those two. But before we get to that, we get Ja Rule's speech. This is the big thing of the chapter. This is like the most important thing that happens, really. He kind of goes off. He broadcasts to all of Elbaph, so everybody hears him through a Den Den Mushi, and he lays out the facts of what's going on. He tells everybody Loki is innocent. He clears Loki's name publicly. After all these years of everyone thinking like Loki killed King Harold for like evil reasons, all this stuff, he doesn't explain everything, but he's basically like, hey, there are these people, the devils, like they're trying to conquer Elbaph, and we got to stop them. Like he basically declares all-out war on the world government. His Soga King moments. If only Soga King was here. And he kind of like he breaks out like a lot of like what's going on also with like the Harley prophecy, and he's like trying to rally the giants to be like, we can't give up our culture, our history. We have to save these kids. They're the next generation. And it's awesome. It's a great speech. I think it's really helpful for me. It reaffirms, I think, that Ja Rule, like I was always kind of like I wasn't trusting him very much. I was kind of like, what's your real deal, dude? But it turns out he was a real one, apparently. And we get the Harley prophecy stuff invoked again. So that was like the sacred text we saw of like how everything is separated into parts. And he says like the prophecy's happening. We have to choose a side, and we need to see the world government as our enemy. Pretty wild. And then we get like another kind of double page of the Holy Knights in their full on glory. Gunko is still in emu mode, and Killingham still is like in nightmare mode. And it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. It looks like it's going to be a big thing. And Usopp, like to the name of the chapter, because like up until this point, Usopp is like, what is wrong with these giants? Like they're not doing it. They're not rising to the occasion. But then he's like, hey, this is it. This is the Elbaph I always admired. I always dreamed about this Elbaph. So I think we're going to get our Usopp moment. I think he's going to do something cool. We'll see. And but yeah, they still needed to get untied and everything. How did Jinbei? Anyway, and then we have Dory and Brogy showing up at I think the Western Village it is. And it's going to be a big, big confrontation with them because they're still Domi reversied. And Zoro, Hajrudin, and Stanson are kind of positioned to go up against them. And Hajrudin tells them, like, hey, you got to be careful with this. But Zoro is like, all right. I may not know how to get over there, but I have a plan. And not since Zoro versus Pika have I been so ready to find out what Zoro's plan is.
This is gonna be real stupid. I do like the idea of the world's most directionless man having to be aware of his choreography for the entirety of this fight.
Well, not only that,
this will be great.
The most directionless man has to stop a bunch of kids from going in one direction.
Yeah. It's
where do you want to start? I guess we start the obvious. What's the plan?
Oh man, I saw it just today pitched that his plan is just to ask Dory and Brogy which one of them is the strongest and make them fight each other.
That'd be
just
fun.
Like the old days. That would be something that Zoro would actually be able to do. But he's already going for his swords, so my guess is he's got some sort of
it could be easy to get their attention.
So get their attention, yeah, basically. Or like if he's going to bait them about strength, it's going to be in regards to himself. Because he hasn't beaten a giant yet. He might as well add that to his repertoire.
Sure.
But whatever it is, it'll be stupid. Like, this is not going to be the most tactful plan in the world, because I mean, this is a man who would gladly cut off his legs to not win a fight. So I can't wait to see McKenna say, "I'm going to cut my legs off like an idiot" next season. That'll be wonderful. I do want to say, I guess where I really want to start is we have a map now. Welcome to Act 3, everybody.
I was trying to remember,
almost
like,
done.
do we get a map? Because I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the first real one, huh?
We've had a map. We got a map of this back when they were explaining where like the owl and school, the owl library and the school were in relation to the village and everything. But we have not had one since events have started. So this is kind of like your Dressrosa style, Wano style. Like, okay, we're heading into the third act of this arc. We need to establish where everybody is, because this is, everything's going to get crazy really, really quickly here. This is a good indicator that we are on our way to being done with this.
Speaking of pace, I mean, it reminds me how like our first recap, our first like episode of Rookie Pirate Radio was 1071. So we have done, obviously we just did we condensed the last 30 chapters, but we have done like 100 chapters podcasting. And that's 100. The first one we did was the hero is deployed. So when Kuma, flies off it. So it's like in a little bit into Egghead, not that far into Egghead. And so 100 chapters, we've done all of Egghead, Kuma flashback, and then a big chunk of Elbaph, including this huge God Valley flashback. I mean, the pace is there. We are not in Wano anymore, that's for sure. My thing for Zoro is, if you want to be like, all right, is Zoro actually like a real plan? Like he has an idea of how to deal with like how to defeat, like how to stop this, like what's controlling them. Is he going to be able to cut the connection between them and Emu? He can cut anything. Maybe he just heard, oh, he's being connected, and he's like, oh, then I'm going to cut the connection. I don't know. I think you're probably right. Like, I don't think he's thinking about the Conqueror's hockey thing, but I feel like it's too easy, right? Even though
he doesn't learn that way. He has to learn this, like they said, he's just leaking this stuff Ichigo style and just never knew. Like he used it completely subconsciously against Kaido. He's gonna have to learn through clashing swords. That's how Zoro works. It's just that's how he learns. So that's what he's gonna have to do. He's gonna have to clang some swords.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think then? All right, so Brook.
Ooh, I'm really interested in this.
Also, I skipped Bon Clay. Bon Clay was on the reader request for the beginning, doing some cosmetics, and there's some swans. It was fun.
Love seeing my boy. Great to see him. Obviously, cover story request, not canon. We don't know what he looks like anymore, but always good to see Bon Clay. Brook. I am so ready for Brook lore. I am so ready for Brook lore. I want to know what he is thinking right now. I want to know what he's about so badly. This is I am so excited at the potential of finding out more of his backstory, genuinely.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned that it seems like Tekking's idea is that Brook, when he worked for like the world government, that's how he knows about the Holy Knight stuff. He worked for a certain kingdom he talks about, and he might have at times gone to marry Joa, and he might have met Gunko when she was a kid, before all the God Valley stuff. And he might have like played music, and like they could have like started up a friendship and stuff like that. And it would kind of explain like why she has that connection, why she's listening to Soul King music and all of that. But of course, she has been, horribly corrupted by Emu. It makes you wonder, like, are they going to pull something where she's like connected to somebody? Because her whole backstory is still interesting to me in the sense that she doesn't have like the saint name. She's the one that Emu takes over. So it makes me wonder if it's similar to like Harold. Like she was maybe she was the kid of like some enemy from a long time ago. So she's not really from the Holy Land, but was like raised there, something like that.
Didn't they edit that in the volume though? To give her the saint title when they gave her the Manmayer family.
Did they
name?
I missed that. Well, then maybe not.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't mean like we know for a fact, right? That like
he doesn't Domi Reversi just anybody. It seems like. I mean, he did Dory and Brogy, but
he Domi Reversi Dory and Brogy, but taking over Gunko or taking over Saturn seems to be something that has to do with the Covenant. So that one's consensual. Finger quotes on that word, but like they've signed up for the Covenant, and that's why. But the interesting thing about this is we know for a fact that like world nobles will just take somebody. And let's be real here. We've been playing back and forth with this idea of why he's obsessed with Vivi, and he has this hang up about Lily. Here is another potentially royal child, a royal woman, that kind of has similar features, kind of a similar body type. Is this just an emu thing? Like, it's entirely possible he took her. I do think that that's possible.
Makes me wonder if she's from the Void Century, and her face is covered because she's like a very important character from that.
Well, we know she's young when she's interacting with Brook in that flashback, right?
Yeah.
So she could be aging very, very slowly. That is definitely possible. And if my emu is a child theory pans out, then sure, that also, yeah, maybe it's his friend. I like this idea of her always having been in the Holy Land, though, and Brook met her. That might work a little bit better than her being like someone from the kingdom he served under and then was like taken or adopted or something. Maybe that does kind of
just like
fit
the order
together better.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool. I love that like Brook is doing stuff. He hasn't gotten to do a lot of fun stuff lately, not since really Whole Cake Island. Like his only feat in Wano was like defeating a couple numbers in one hit. But yeah, here he's up to something. My guess is he's gonna like probably do like a concert or something. Like I think that'd be very Brook if he figured out that music was a way to like deal with it's like the Pied Piper, maybe that could work to like it could counter the arrows, maybe like maybe sound is something that messes with that power, and he would know that because he remembers her. Or it could just be that he has an idea of like helping the kids with music, or I want to believe music is involved with the solution.
Yeah, it has to be because it's Brook. That makes total sense. He is the Soul King. We know that with his devil fruit, kind of. Is Brook awakened? Is this a question we've ever asked before?
I mean, the will of his devil fruit seems to align with his will, right?
Yeah, he can do some pretty crazy stuff with that devil fruit that does not make like normal level sense. Like we know that like it only kicks in after you die, but like he's literally gained the ability to separate his soul from his body. So this idea that he's playing with like similar spaces as to Emu's powers could be something that he leverages his music into, like connecting with the possessed Gunko and maybe expelling Emu temporarily or something. I guess the real question is he seems to have a suspicion that this is someone he recognizes. So he's doing something related to that is what it feels like to me. Like he has escaped. He has intentionally not freed his crewmates. He's going stealth for some reason. It has to do with that possible recognition. And that means we got to get a little bit of Brook lore. Just a little bit of Brook lore. That's all I want.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, I'm trying to think like what else. Like I know you mentioned the Sanji thing. You think he'll figure out a way to deal with the regeneration stuff. I remember I think it was one of the giants, the chef Goldberg, I think his name is. Well, first we find out that Rhoda's brother is one of the hostages, so a little bit of like connection there. But then Goldberg, I think he brings up like there's got to be another way to defeat them, right? Like okay, yeah, maybe they regenerate. Maybe we don't have to knock them out. If there's something we can do to contain them, maybe that is all we really need to do. So that maybe at least one of the Holy Knights gets defeated that way. And then another knight gets defeated with Conqueror's Heart. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that's an interesting line. Maybe we do just trap them. Maybe that's what we do with Gunko. Maybe we detain her instead, and that lets us talk to her or something. I don't know. That could be doable.
Yeah, like if there was a way to cut off Emu's connection with sound waves, like a sound barrier. If only Bardo was here. But no, I do wonder too, like, because like right now I'm not feeling the stakes. Like I'm concerned for the kids, but I know they're gonna be okay. I'm not feeling like the odds are really that stacked against Team Straw Hat Elbaph, right? Like, yeah, Dory and Brogy are possessed right now, but I feel like they got a lot of heavy hitters on their side. I think they can handle Gunko, Summers, and Killingham. Honestly, just between like Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, let alone we also have Jinbei, and we also have Loki, and we have like this huge giant army. Like we have all of these like giants. So it's like, it's a little weird to me that it's like, it feels lopsided. Now, if Shamrock came into the game, I think that would really upset the difference. And then that's where like Loki would really be needed. I don't know. I'm kind of speculating wildly, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, that we notably we've kept Luffy and Loki specifically down below. And that, kind of sets up a moment for them to join the fight when they need to, when things get really spicy. But to your point about stakes, I think that's why the emu button got hit. We're still in a place where the Straw Hats are now powerful enough that this is the kind of scale that we need to be at, and at the same time, they actually match that scale. So it's not impossible that they could go toes with the Holy Knights pretty easily. I mean, Zebek completely mops the floor with half of these doofuses who were there at the time of God Valley. So yeah, it makes sense that like the Straw Hats could at least fight them to a stalemate and repel them or get away, something like that, or at least disrupt their plan, right? But the emu of this really escalates the situation because we have hints, we have clues, we have teases. I mean, if you really do have to defeat everybody who has a covenant with emu to weaken him enough to be able to defeat him, that's not happening here. That's not happening. We do not have the means to do that. And that means that this does not go to a stalemate. There, like, something of this is going to go south. It's probably not going to be an all is lost moment or anything for the storyline. I mean, somebody is taking an L here somewhere just because Emu is here, and there's basically no way for that to not mean, there's going to be a wound. Maybe it is that Jarl goes down. Maybe it's, maybe it's the kids get captured. I don't know, like successfully captured. I don't know. But there is something, there's too many moving pieces, and the emu of this in specific, maybe it really is just you don't save Dory and Brogy. Maybe we don't have the means to do that right now. I don't know. But regardless, emu really does raise those stakes because they have to. Otherwise, what have we been doing here? So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did want to bring up, by the way, that we shared a theory in the Discord. Hey, join the Discord. Why not? Where it was like a Reddit theory, this idea that the reason that Emu is able to take control of some of the giants is because, well, if you put all the pieces together, you can see like he can't do all of them, but he can do some. And he chooses the two strongest, Dory and Brook. And the theory is that the reason he can do that is because Harold pledged allegiance to the world government. And maybe part of the covenant is that even though Harold is dead, no one else has become king of Elbaph since him. And so the covenant means that your kingdom is under Emu's control. And so he can take control of like a limited amount of people at any given time if your king gives allegiance. And that would change if Loki became king or if Hajrudin became king and so on.
I remember we talked about this. I like that idea because it does bring that it kind of brings that story
King
full
of the
circle.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Why is it so dangerous for there to be a king of the world, a king of the pirates? It's this whole idea of like this covenant thing being part of that. I think it's to me, it's a really, really good pathway to go down. Maybe we probably don't have all the details and how that actually works, but I think it's a start.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that it's very narrative, and this is I guess we haven't really talked too much about it, but something like this would be why I feel that Loki probably isn't joining the crew more than anything else, because it really does feel like his arc is supposed to end coming to that same kind of appreciation for his country that Harold did.
I agree. Although I agree with the idea that we're going to get more Straw Hats before the end of the story. There's the whole theory that we're going to get 3 more because of the Zodiac and because every arc or every saga gets 4. And New World, we've only gotten 1 so far. And so we're still pending 3.
Because I haven't read this theory. Tell me about this.
The theory is, I sent it to you on Instagram. I think. Actually, I don't know if I did.
Before you.
So the theory is that there's going to be 13 Straw Hats for or 12 Straw Hats. They're 12 or 13, probably 12 for like the Chinese zodiac, because they all already correspond. And then the other part of the theory is that each part of the journey, we've had 4 Straw Hats join the crew. And that we're going to get 4 in the third part, which is the New World. So the first part of the series, we got the first 4. We got Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji. Then the second arc, we got Chopper, Robin, Frankie, and Brook. And then New World, we've only gotten Jinbei. And so who are the next 3? Well, Yamato is still kind of like undeclared. It's like the kind of the next Jinbei where that's been delayed, basically. So you probably put her there. And then the other ones could be, we've talked about this endlessly, right? But like Carrot, one of the reasons people thought it might be Carrot because like we still need a rabbit from the Zodiac. But that looks like that's not happening. But then there is, of course, like people have said, maybe it's Loki. I say it should and needs to be Bonnie, but who am I to ask Oda for anything? But yeah, that's that.
Yeah. You know what's missing from this map?
Which map?
Yeah, let me look at this map again from this chapter, since you bring that pretty important topic up of Bonnie. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, her and Lilith.
Where's Frankie?
Oh yeah, Frankie, I think was still kind of like
he was with them,
he was
right?
Back. Yeah.
Wasn't
I
he
think
with
they're kind
Ripley?
of out of the way, right? Like them and because we saw Ripley, they were together.
Yeah, Ripley. Yeah, but Ripley's here. She's on the rescue team.
I assume they're fighting
castle.
Killingham's nightmares and stuff.
That's what I would assume too. But you would think that he would have a panel somewhere, and I just don't see him. And by proxy, we don't see Bonnie or Lilith either. So that's curious.
I guess it's just not relevant right now. But yeah, it is a weird oversight.
Normally, I would say you were right, that it's just he doesn't think it's relevant, so he's benched them because there's already so many moving pieces to keep track of. But Frankie is not anywhere to be seen here. And Oda is not going to forget Frankie. That's on purpose. The only two Straw Hats we're not seeing here are Brook and Frankie, and we know, like Brook, it's called out specifically that he's run off. So like we're supposed to be looking for Straw Hats who aren't here.
We're a bit over time, but we could probably look at a few comments here.
Are they all where have you guys been?
Indigo Pegasus said, I'm glad the truth about Loki came out quickly. Mr. Churro said he's got a plan. The plan is slash him up until they can't move. Earth Dragoon said, I have a feeling that Zoro figured out how to flip the giants back to the right side. Blue Kuribo said, first, the celestial dragons took their king from them, and now they're here to take their children, burn their culture, and make slaves of them all. There's nothing else that can be done but declare war. Oof. Okay. Hero 2 Anime said, since we're in Act 3 of this arc, we should remind ourselves of all the things that were mentioned early in the arc so we don't forget them, especially since the flashback was so long. Robin and the latter Straw Hats have yet to mention the X on Luffy's arm to the other members, Chopper and earlier, how Brook fits into Gunko's past, how Domi Reversi can be reversed. Also with Brook, maybe it's like Thriller Bark with the zombies and using salt could actually destroy the nightmares. That would be an amazing callback. And it also means 1 month until live action season 2 starts. It's the year of giants. Hey, it's the year of the San Francisco Giants. I'm just kidding. What do you think of that? Brook using salt.
That would be fun.
Yeah, why not?
I would enjoy that. That would be fun. I still think that like Brook is specifically targeting Gunko here more than anything else, but I'm ready for him to shine. I'm also ready for Usopp to shine. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things because he's hyped as heck.
I know.
Would love an Usopp pop off here, but I'm no longer gonna hold my heart out. I'll take Brook lore and call it good.
Brady, my old boy, is on your page. They said, Zoro has a plan. God, I hope it involves striking a cool pose and trying to hack his own legs off. Gembug said, I think it's really hard to do a refresher chapter without it feeling like one. Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's why I don't mind it. I'm like, all right, we got to take our medicine.
This is a really good one, though.
Yeah.
The speech is hype. That is like when they animate that's gonna go so hard. That's gonna be up there with the Onigashima speech from that they kept replaying in the anime over and over again. I think this is one of those. So it'll be cool. This is a solid way of doing it.
Namgam said, Loki has been wearing a blindfold over his eyes all his life. It's going to explode off of him when his eyes pop out seeing Nika. Domi Reversi is the corrupt state. Makes me think that Imu's power is the Domi Domi no Mi, domination fruit. Domination being the opposite of freedom, Luffy's fruit. Blackbeard's fruit could also be an alternate kind of domination in being darkness versus sun. Or better yet, he plans to use Devil Fruit disabling power to undo any Domi Reversi effects. And or if he does use it on Imu directly, he could free the world then and there. I'm extremely curious if Brook can also free people from Domi Reversi with his powers. The same kind of way he could counter Big Mom's powers, free the souls kind of thing. Ooh, yeah. Also, Gunko keeps getting close-ups with ... So I imagine she's having a lot to scream internally. Her big spread with the other two confirms to be that she's under Domi Reversi or something extremely similar to. Oh yeah, that was confirmed before all this.
Yeah, so I really like that call about Blackbeard because this flashback and where we are right now has raised obviously a lot of questions about Blackbeard and his relationship to his father. I think for a long time, we've kind of rationalized out that Zebek and him were related in some way, that he had inherited Zebek's will. But honestly, it feels like he hasn't. it feels like he's taken an entirely different angle to all of this, which
agree.
is so interesting.
He's not his father.
He's not. And you think about, he is a guy who has absolutely read that Devil Fruit encyclopedia front to back and back to front. He knows a lot. It's possible he knows what Vegapunk knows, which is that the Gum Gum Fruit isn't real, things like that. It's possible he has a lot more knowledge than we know, because we know that Eris survived. So there's a place for him to learn this information. And that's to say nothing of what he might have picked up growing up as a young boy. But even then, he's never talked about needing a devil fruit from Elbaph. As far as we know, he's never had Elbaph on his radar. That's never been a thing he's cared about, despite the fact that the only devil fruit that Roxy Zebek was interested in is on this island, and currently the one that Loki possesses. It's not the one that Blackbeard had his eyes on the entire time. He wanted that darkness fruit. There's something about that fruit that he cares about that never even resonated with Zebek, or those two have some sort of similar property. I don't know, but it's really interesting the trajectory that Blackbeard is on, given that normally a character would have inherited a will like this, and he didn't. To that point, that's Blackbeard for you. He does everything wrong. He is truly a tonal opposite from everything else going on in this story.
Agreed. Dunesen said, Hajrudin still seems upset with Loki. And now I'm just waiting impatiently for Usopp to get freed and step up. I said way back at the start of the story that this needs to be his arc as much as anybody's. This is his chance to shine. Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you. I think Hajrudin isn't really upset with Loki. I think Hajrudin, it's just like classic sibling rivalry stuff.
Yeah, Loki is still a butthead. This is true. Like he did all those other things.
Yeah, he did massacre those people.
Yeah, he did do all that other stuff, even the stuff we didn't see, is kind of implicit. He actually did do those things.
Snickersnack wrote, Emu doesn't seem to be bothered by Ja Rule's declaration, but guess they already accepted that Elbaph will always be their enemy since they are of the D. Interesting detail on the straw hat and crown on the cover page. Looking forward to more of Brook's flashback and his past history with God's Knights, especially with Gunko. Actually, that makes me think too that with the Loki stuff, another thing I really liked about the Loki stuff was like the relationship between him and Ida, Hajrudin's mom, and like all that stuff was really sweet, and I liked that. I like seeing Gabon and Shanks kind of hanging out, like back in the earlier days.
I loved Gabon absolutely dunking on Ace from the past / the grave. That was great. But yeah, they always called like, oh, Buggy and you were like our sons, and we were all your gay dads. Like, I love that.
We were your flag beads death.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that for them. That was wonderful. That by itself is probably the most revealing thing about why Shanks is the way that he is, right? He wasn't just a cabin boy. He wasn't just there or even just another crew member. He was, in a lot of ways, their own treasure. He was the thing that they constantly fought off God's Knights to keep on their ship. And that kind of puts in perspective why he is the way that he is in Romance Dawn, for example. The way that he acts is very similar to that.
Just a few more comments here. Boss 87 called it, like you, Travis, said, easiest plan would be to just ask Dory and Brogy who is stronger. Rekindle the century feud. I guess you guys are onto something. That must be it. I think that would be pretty satisfying. Now I'll probably be disappointed if it isn't that.
Yeah, right?
Kenshin Goku said, ain't gonna lie, guys, I'm a bit disappointed with this chapter. Was hoping after waiting 2 weeks we would get something big in this chapter, but it was a recap chapter, which I didn't need, but I guess was necessary. By the way, why can't they just push the kids into the water? Wouldn't that just undo the technique that is being used right now? Anyway, I'm ready for Luffy/Loki to clash with Emu already. I wonder how many chapters it will take for that. Well, they can't really do anything with the kids at all because of the thorns. The thorns are like, if they try to mess with the kids kids get hurt. So that's why they can't. I mean, could they splash seawater on them? I don't think the ocean's anywhere close to them, and I don't think that would do much.
Seawater and devil fruit powers are kind of inconsistent in when they work and when they don't anyway. The rule is basically when Oda needs them to work, they work. And when Oda doesn't need them to work, they don't. There's the way back in Arlong Park where they stretch Luffy's head out of the water to get him to breathe while he's pinned underneath. That's not supposed to work. That's not how that's supposed to work, but it did because they needed it to. That's... It's so I don't even know that would by itself do the job. It does kind of beg the question of what are you supposed to do about these thorns, though? Like, what are you going to do? Light the kids on fire?
Well, if you're Zoro, you cut the thorns, I guess.
Yeah. If you're Zoro, you cut their legs off so they stop marching to the boat.
Well, I think the obvious thing is they have to defeat, Summers. Like they just have to defeat him. And we've already seen like his power scaling, like Gaban had that dude handled. So I think it just comes down to that. Like somebody like Sanji is going to have to like basically like passionately.
It's got to be Sanji, right? Their whole shtick about love and all of that. Like it's got to be those two taking him down, right? That just seems correct.
Then who takes Killingham then? Because I think Luffy and Loki are needed for Gunko, unless like even with Brook's help, right? So
yeah,
I guess Zoro.
I guess that's a Zoro fight. I don't know. Well, Zoro's dealing with Dory and Brogy, so this might be.
That's true.
I mean, you know who it needs to be? It needs to be Usopp.
There you go.
We're talking about fears. We're talking about fears, right? Yeah. He manifests fears.
Lies.
Yeah. It's
lies
Usopp.
We tell ourselves in the dark.
Yeah, it's Usopp. It's got to be Usopp, right? This is his moment. This is it, actually.
Actually, yeah. Let's go.
I feel this.
I'll call Oda now. Like I know you probably already did the chapter, but
it's like, hey, you need to pivot the whole arc now.
Yeah, pivot. And then Lionblade said, I'm glad that Ja Rule told everyone the truth and encouraged the Giants to fight back against the Holy Knights. That may give an advantage for the Straw Hats and their allies. Oh, then that reminds me, like Kenshin Goku was saying, like, oh, it was just a recap chapter. Again, I think we already said it, but like,
yeah, I think that
it has
speech
this
really
function
makes
of the speech. Yeah, it's rallying the troops. You do need it. So yeah. And then Illuminati No Gaming said, great speech by Yarl. Next chapter should be good. I keep saying Ja Rule, Yarl. I don't know.
No, I like that you call it. I like that you call him Ja Rule because it sounds like you're doing a bit and it's consistent.
It is. It's part bit. It's part like I don't want to say Jarl because like I see Ja Rule and I think of the Raptor guy and Fire Island.
I'm like that works.
Saying. All right, well I guess that'll do it for this recap of One Piece manga chapter 1172. Thank you so much for listening to Rookie Pirate Radio. It was so fun, Travis, to catch up, and let's not wait another 30 chapters.
Yeah, good idea.
One Piece. That would be nice. Nearly a year. But thanks as always for listening. I actually don't even remember how we usually end the show. It's been so long.
You just say goodbye. Actually, we don't really have a sign off. We should make one, but we haven't.
We're sailing away. I don't. I'll think of something later.
We'll workshop it.
Bye, everybody.